All right, so last we left off, the car was in the paint booth. It had gotten painted and they did the clear coat on it and everything, and the car had turned out really nice. So this is just a little bit of in the paint booth, and then outside when it was curing and after it was all painted and still needed to be reassembled, but basically all finished. There's some new brackets on there for the bumpers we bought because the other ones were broken. And then they started wet sanding and buffing the car and getting any of the orange peel out, trying to make it look as close to factory, because then you still have the factory hood and driver front fender and front bumper and roof that were not repainted. So to get that to all match, they had to do a lot to color sand it and get it all nice and cleaned up, and any imperfections needed to be buffed out and polished, and it came out very nicely. They spent a lot of time on this car. They spent a lot of time with the body work, the extra work, going in there and fixing what other people had done wrong with it. And so I went to check on the car when it was almost finished. You can see the door panels are still off of it, and they just had a few little things to put back together. They were putting the diffuser back on the back bumper there, and the car's a little dirty from all the water sanding and stuff, and that's okay. So then I went and picked up the car the next day. They said it would be ready, and they called me when it was ready, and so I went over there, and the car was looking fantastic, and it looks beautiful, especially in the sun. That ruby red looks just wonderful. You can tell we had taken the stripes off in the previous video, so it's a stripe delete car now, and this turned out very nice. So let's drive it home. My wife drove me out there, so that was nice, and she followed me home in the GT, and I kept looking back in the rearview mirror and thinking, man, that GT looks so good going down the road. I was really happy with it. I kept looking back at it, especially since this is what that car used to look like. When I bought it as a parts car, and it needed some body work, and it was such a low mile car that I decided I'd go ahead and save it and put it back together. So this has all been interesting because I did all this myself, no experience, and then going to the body shop and seeing how they do it. So it's kind of fun to take the Silver GT to go pick up this car because it's been through some bad stuff itself. But anyway, looking back at it, I thought, man, that car looks really good going down the road, especially from where it came from. So it was a pretty short drive. I just drove the car home. All right, so we'll look at this paint job with a little more detail. This is looking at the cars parked across the street in the driveway, and you can see the clarity. It looks really good. There's my house, the reflection on the other side. These are the two quarter panels. We were just really wanting to look at how this came out. So this is just parked out in front of the house, and looking at the car in the sunlight, it looks really good. I think the car blends all together perfectly, especially considering the hood, front bumper, roof, and driver front fender were not repainted. And they matched the color very well. They matched the orange peel, the factory orange peel, really good. So you can just see the car looks like a brand new car. Everything flows nicely. And that ruby red just looks beautiful. No harsh contrast lines. I mean, everything on this car looks really good, comes together very nicely. And so I was actually watching an episode of Graveyard Cars and relaxing, and they were painting a burnt orange Hemi Cuda, and they were joking about using a dollar bill to check the reflection and the clear coat. So I decided to go out here and try that out. And so looking at this dollar bill, you could read the serial numbers off of that if you wanted to, and the clarity of the dollar bill looks really good in the reflection of this paint job. So I took it just a couple streets up from my house where I could take it into a nice open street and walk around and look at the car. Kind of at golden hour, the sun was starting to set, so the ruby red just does a beautiful job with that kind of lighting. And this is a good time to look over the car and, you know, take a step back and see it out in the elements, see it not just in a garage or under shop lights or anything, but just to have a nice little walk around of the car. So, you know, both quarter panels on this car were smashed in. There was repair done in the door jambs from all that. You know, the shine on the hood and the fenders matches nicely. So I think they did a really good job, and they did a lot of wet sanding and polishing to finish the car up right. And it was a lot of body work for them to go through and fix stuff that the other people had done wrong when they repaired it the first time. But you can see that beautiful ruby red looks really nice. And the ruby red, it shines differently on the bends and the different angles, and so you kind of have to walk around the car to see the colors shift and the shadows change on it just slightly, but it's all there. I think this looks really good. There are a few little, you know, cleaning imperfections from, you know, they got it cleaned up and got it out of the shop and stuff, but it needs to be detailed again now. You can see some smudge marks and things from just washing it quickly to get it done and get it out of there. So I'll go over it a little bit and clean it up and give it my personal level of touch and get it, you know, washed nicely and cleaned up. But just overall, I think this turned out very nice. The car looks uniform. Before, the quarter panels didn't even match because they were repainted, but they were repainted a different color. And they had the card, the spray card there, and you could see it wasn't even ruby red. So this is all now the same color. And, you know, just looking really good all the way down. This whole side was repainted. And, you know, color sand and everything to match. They did paint the mirror as well on the passenger side here. The top of it had some really bad scuffs all over it, so they were nice enough to do that so that it would look really good. Here's the trunk. The reflection looks really good, and to show, here's my hand. You can see the reflection of my hand in the trunk lid there. So that's looking really good, and I'm glad they did the trunk and the quarters and everything, so it all looks uniform. Here's the back bumper, looks really good too. So just back in my driveway here, nice little walk around, more of the golden hour time of day where you can see this ruby red just looking beautiful again. And I think they did a great job. They worked really hard. So now got the car ready to go back in the garage, and you know, just a nice evening. So I did put the GT350 in the garage, and I took my Mach 1 over to my friend's house and put it in his garage. So that's the update for the GT350. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. There's more to come for this car, so stay tuned for more updates on the car and for more Mustang content.